Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our Ready for Rome webinar. We're really glad to have you here. My name is Shelly Ruel, and I'm the community manager here at ItaliaPass. And I am joined by my colleague, Lorian Filon, who is our ItaliaPass Primo Italy Experience Specialist. And we're going to take you through some information today to hopefully make your trip to Rome a lot smoother. Let me go forward. So first, I wanted to take a moment to share with you what is ItaliaPass, because some people aren't really sure how it relates. You're probably an ItaliaRail customer if you're joining us today. So we have different Italia brands: ItaliaRail, Italia Tours, Italia Drive, and Italia Hotels. And since 1987, these companies have worked with millions of tourists to explore Italy. And our CEO and founder wanted to help his customers make their trip to Italy the best ever. So he created this other brand called ItaliaPass, which is actually made up of two different types of membership. We have a free community, which is just simply the ItaliaPass community. And then we have a paid benefits program membership called ItaliaPass Primo. And we'll be giving you a little bit more information as we go along about the kind of benefits you might be able to access in your Primo membership if that's something that interests you. All right, next slide. So what we're going to cover in today's webinar, we're going to cover a lot of information. If I go too fast and you miss something, don't worry, because after I'm going to give you a link to all the resources and all the information that I talk about today. And I'm also going to send you a recording of today's webinar, so you will have that to refer back to if you want to do that. First, we're going to start out talking about when you arrive into FCO, which is the airport here in Rome, and how to get into the city. Most people do arrive at the airport. And then we're going to talk about the ItaliaPass Lounge, how you can get access to that lounge at Rome's Termini train station. A little bit about riding public transport here in the city. And then a little bit about restaurants and menus and some local customs, so you can know what that's going to be like before you get here and kind of be ready for what might be different. Then we're going to give you some information about how you can get into the Colosseum complimentary and how you can get $100 off of a Rome or Vatican tour. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how to avoid some common tourist traps, a few of my favorite local tips, and then at the very end, we're going to open it up to a live Q&A. And how that will work is that there's a chat functionality where you can type in your question, and Lorian and I will answer all of those questions live. All right, so I'm going to hand it over to Lorian to talk to you about arriving at Fiumicino.
Hello, everyone. Thanks again for joining us, and Shelly for the introduction. So now that you've landed at FCO Airport and you have a few options to get to the center of Rome. So as you see on the slide, they're all indicated in the terminal. The first option is to reach Rome at Termini, which is the main train station in Rome, by train. So there are two types of trains that you can take. The first one is the Leonardo Express, which is the direct train that takes you to Termini station, and it costs $16 on ItaliaRail. And the second one is a regional, which means it's a more local train, and it'll get you to the smaller stations in Rome, in Trastevere and Ostiense, and it's $10 on ItaliaRail. There are also taxis that you can take outside the terminal with a fixed rate of €50. And I do highly suggest that you follow the signs to the taxi stand and not go with anyone inside the terminal offering taxi services or sort of calling out to you. That's just a rule to make sure that you get into an official taxi and they'll offer you the fixed rate I mentioned. The other options include you can take a shuttle bus, or we do offer private transfers as well that take you straight to your accommodations in Rome instead of just the train station. And that can be booked on Italia Tours or through your dedicated Italy Experience Specialist like myself. And that's if you're a Primo member with us. Now, I think we're missing maybe one slide. Perfect. So a question that comes up often is if you should rent a car during your trip. So if you're going to be exploring some of the more remote areas like Tuscany, for example, renting a car can be a great option. But I don't recommend renting a car if you're only going to be visiting the major cities like Florence, Venice, Rome, or Milan. Since the best way to navigate between these locations is usually by train, and most of these cities have very strict car traffic rules, so it can be really tricky to get a permit to enter them, to park, or operate a car within the city walls. If you do decide to rent a car, you can do so on our platform, as you're seeing on the slide. It's called Italia Drive, and you'd benefit from a $10 discount as a Primo member, and you can redeem that after booking by contacting us. Another great perk of being a member is the access to our Italia Pass Lounge, which is located in the Roma Termini station. You can have some free time before or after boarding a train, or if you're waiting for your hotel check-in time, you can relax in the lounge. It offers free Wi-Fi, espresso, refreshments, and also free luggage storage during opening hours. And our lounge hosts can also answer any questions you might have about Rome and your train tickets. And all you need to do is to make sure you book your complimentary visit beforehand. And now I'll hand it over to Shelly for some information on public transport within the city.
Okay, thanks. So the public transport company in Rome is called ATAC. Oops, let me go back here. Having a little trouble today with my slides. All right, so first of all, the different types of public transport in Rome. We have buses. We have a subway system that's referred to as the metro because that's short for metropolitana. So that's the underground. And we have a couple of trams as well. The metro, I do want to let you know, it's quite easy to navigate because we only have two lines, A and B. There is a C line, but that's not going to really interest tourists at this point because the central part of the C line is not yet complete. The A and B line only cross in one station, that is Rome Termini. So it's quite easy to transfer from A to B. That being said, it's a very busy station, so you're going to want to keep very aware of your belongings as you're moving through those crowds. Tickets on the public transport system are quite reasonable in comparison with other large European cities. They cost €1.50, and they are time tickets, meaning that they are valid from the time that you first validate it. So let's say you get on a bus and you're going to put your ticket in the machine to validate it. Then your time starts. You have 100 minutes to ride the system. The one exception to that is you only get one ride on the underground, one metro ride with that ticket. So the metro ride does not apply to the time limited system. Once you enter the metro, you can change. You can take a transfer as part of your ticket. Once you exit the metro station, however, that ticket is no longer valid for subway rides. However, it is still valid for the above ground transportation up until that 100-minute limit. Something that's convenient in the subway system is that there is a tap and go system. So if you want to ride the metro, you don't have to buy a ticket if you have a contactless payment system. So whether that's on your phone or if that's a card, you can use your debit or credit card. If it's contactless, tap in to pass through the turnstile, and that counts as your ticket. One thing to note here is that one card for each rider. Your card, your payment card or your payment method counts as your ticket. So you can't pay for multiple riders on the same card. So let's say you're riding with a travel companion. Each of you need to have your own payment system in order to have a ticket, because if you're checked, your payment system is the validity of your ticket. There are also a few unlimited ride passes available. In the resources section at the end where I give you the link, I'll explain a little bit about those. Those are good only if you think you're going to use the metro a lot or the public transport system a lot during your time. And those are for 24, 48, or 72 hours. You can purchase tickets at ticket machines. Ticket machines are generally found in the subway stations. You won't see a lot of ticket machines at bus stops. If you need to ride a bus and you need to get a ticket for the bus, by the way, the tap and go system is not fully implemented on the buses, so I would not expect to have a tap and go system on a bus. You're going to want to buy your ticket at what's called the tabaccheria. So those are the tobacconist shops. You can identify those very easily because they have a T sign hanging over the door, or at newsstands, which are throughout the city. One last thing here that I wanted to make you aware of is that for tourists coming into the city, there's a bus 64, that's extremely convenient because it crosses the entire historic center from the central train station all the way across to the Vatican. So tourists use this bus a lot. The thing that I would make you aware of, though, is For this reason, it can be a target for pickpockets. Now, I don't say this to scare you at all. Rome is a very safe city. However, there is petty crime. I've lived here for 23 years and I, knock on wood, have never been pickpocketed. The reason is I'm very aware of my belongings and it's really easy to do that. So just don't be distracted. When you get on the bus, make sure you have your bag. If you have a purse, maybe put it across your chest, like a cross-body bag. For men, if you have your wallet, rather than having it in your back pocket, maybe put it in your front pocket and have your hand on it. Just make sure that you look like you're aware, because the pickpockets will target the people who look distracted. And there's plenty of those. So don't worry. If you know where your belongings are and you're aware of your surroundings, you should have no trouble at all. All right, the next slide, I want to talk to you about some of the fun stuff about eating out. I hope you're going to really enjoy our amazing food here in Rome. Oops, I do not know what is going on with my slides today. Let's see here. The first one. Okay, here we go. Restaurants. Something about eating out here in Rome is that we eat a little bit later than people are used to, let's say in the United States, Canada, typically eat. We eat a little bit later. So lunch would be starting from around 1 p.m. and dinner starting from around 8 p.m. I say this because if you're going to book at a restaurant, just know that locals eat at those times, starting at those times. That's not to say you can't eat out earlier. But those restaurants, if they're booking a lot earlier than that, then they're probably catering to a more tourist crowd rather than a local crowd. I wanted to tell you about the check, which is called il conto, because here in Italy, in Rome, it's a tradition, a local custom that the waitstaff is generally not going to bring you your check after the meal is served. Sometimes in the United States, where I'm from, the server would bring the check and just say, I'll handle that for you when you're ready. It's the opposite here. Because culturally going out to eat is a moment where you're spending time with your friends and family. As a courtesy, the waitstaff is going to allow you to stay at that table generally as long as you want. They're only going to bring the check, generally speaking, when you ask for it, because then you're signaling to them, we're ready to go. So sometimes it happens with people saying to me, why aren't they bringing me my check? That's why. And so it's very simple. Just simply ask for il conto and they'll bring that to you. Tipping is another question I get a lot. We don't generally tip after a meal here in Rome at restaurants. Locals don't generally leave a tip. If they do, if they were really happy with the service, then generally speaking, they might leave €1 coin per person or a few coins on the table. I tell you that because a lot of times people are used to a 20% tip, that type of thing, especially like in the United States where the servers, that's part of their salary. Here, the waitstaff is paid a salary, so they don't rely on tips for their income. So don't feel uncomfortable about following the local custom there. All right, next, I wanted to tell you just a little bit about the different types of restaurant venues that you're going to encounter here, because they're not all the same. So for example, when you see ristorante or pizzeria, those are two different things. Obviously, pizzeria is a pizza restaurant, but it's going to have maybe some different, it's going to focus on pizza, whereas a restaurant is going to have a different type of menu. Sometimes you have a ristorante and pizzeria together. If you're in a ristorante or osteria, trattoria, you're going to generally see on the menu different categories like antipasto, which is your appetizers, primo, which is going to be your pasta dishes, or also risotto, a rice dish. And the secondo is the second course. So that's going to be your meat dishes like your chicken, your beef, and sometimes fish, also here in Rome. I tell you this because I don't want you to think that you need to order something from every category. You can mix and match. Just tell the waitstaff what you want. Romans, when they go out to eat, don't necessarily order every single course. They just kind of pick what they want and go with that. You can also order just a secondo and have them bring it out with everybody else's primo so you can all eat together if you're only going to order a secondo. In a pizzeria, you're going to have as the appetizer, you're going to probably see fritti, which means fried foods. So that picture underneath there is a supplì. That's a local It's a really local famous appetizer in pizza restaurants. It's a fried rice ball with melted mozzarella inside. So I highly recommend you try one of our local specialties. It's also street food, so you'll see shops selling it as you're walking around. Pizzas here are not ordered with the toppings that you want, choosing the toppings and telling the server what toppings you want. They're already kind of pre-made with toppings. They have names. So you're just going to scan the menu, find the pizza that has the topping combination that sounds best to you, and then you're going to order it by the name of that combination. Pizzas here are individual. So you're going to order a pizza and get an entire pizza. However, Roman style pizza is thin crust. So it's definitely doable to eat an entire pizza. It will come, it won't be pre-cut. You're going to cut it. And a lot of times it's baked in a wood-fired oven. Another kind of pizza is pizza al taglio. That means cut pizza or sliced pizza. This is more of a street food. You're going to find that in shops as you're walking around. It's behind a glass counter, like a deli counter, and it's sold by weight. It's not necessarily sold by the piece. So what's going to happen is you're going to point maybe to the type of pizza that you want. The waiter there or the server is going to kind of gesture about how much do you want. Then they're going to put it on the scale and they're going to weigh that. And that's how the price is determined. I would say eating pizza al taglio, you're going to run between maybe 5 to 7 euros per person, maybe a little bit more in the center, also depending on how much you order. Lastly, here, I want to give you a tip about how to eat breakfast like a local. We order cappuccino and cornetto as our breakfast here. We order it standing up at the bar. In the summer, here's a tip. You can actually order a cappuccino freddo. That means cold cappuccino, and they will make it with cold coffee. You can also order caffè freddo, which is a cold espresso. You're going to pay first at the register. You're going to get your receipt, and then you're going to walk over to the adjacent counter, and then you're going to order with the barista after you have your receipt. So you're going to pay first and then order. As to where to get the best espresso in the center of Rome, that is something I have on the list for you at the end that I will send you that link. Okay, I'm going to pass it back over to Lorianne to tell you a little bit about getting into the sites.
Perfect. So now for all the exciting sites that you'll get to see during your stay in Rome. So as a Primo member, you do get one free skip the line ticket of a $22 value, which gives you access to the Colosseum, Roman Forum, and Palatine Hill. And we do also offer guided tour of the Vatican, the Colosseum, to which we can credit your free entrance ticket, as well as walking tours of the rest of Rome, which include Piazza Navona, the Spanish Steps, the Pantheon, the Trevi Fountain, etc. I do recommend taking a look at our Rome Tour Pass if you're spending at least 2 full days in Rome. It includes all of the above, all of what I've just mentioned. And our members do get $100 off of their first tour booking and then 10% off of any subsequent tours. So you can book these tours and experiences on Italia Tours. And you can also email us if you have any questions or you need help booking these. Now, I'll leave it to Shelly to give you some local tips.
Okay, so a couple of tips about avoiding tourist traps. So the first tip I give people is regarding restaurants. Generally speaking, if there are pictures on the menu, that is not a restaurant that locals would eat at, because any Roman restaurant worth its salt does not need to put pictures on its menu. Also, be aware that the restaurants you're going to find in the heavily populated downtown areas that have promoters out front, so people kind of trying to usher you in, those are also more obviously geared towards a tourist crowd. So those are probably ones you're going to want to avoid. It doesn't take much effort to find local restaurants nearby that might have a more authentic selection of food. Next, there's the opportunity to get souvenir photos. If you're at the Colosseum, you'll see these gentlemen like the one I have in this photo. I snapped this photo in the Trastevere neighborhood many years ago. This gladiator apparently was coming home from work with his Samsonite suitcase. And so these gentlemen dress up as gladiators to take pictures with the tourist. Some tourists aren't aware of the fact that they do charge for these photos, and sometimes they try to gouge people on the price. So if you do decide to take a photo with these people, I would advise you to agree on the price before you take the photo, so you're not in an uncomfortable situation after where they're demanding some amount that is way more than you expected. I've heard that 10 euros is generally a going rate. However, I can't vouch for that because I've never actually asked any of the gladiators how much they charge. Another thing that you'll run into, you'll see this gentleman in the photo here, you see this gentleman selling roses. This is also a common way that tourists get kind of engaged, where they'll approach you with roses and say, here, this is a gift. Of course, it's not a free gift. They want you to pay for that. Don't feel uncomfortable just walking by. There's plenty of tourists and they'll find another target. Unless, of course, you want a rose, at which point I would ask how much it costs before you accept it. Lastly, I hope you enjoy our amazing gelato here in Rome. 2 tips. If you encounter gelato like you see in that photo where these just overflowing tubs, that's not the most authentic gelato, because they whip it with a lot of air and make it look appealing like that. But that's actually not the kind of gelato that you want to get if you're a local. You want to get gelato that's either on the level of the tub, or you may also run into shops that you can't even see the gelato. It's underneath a metal, it's like in a metal tub with a lid. That is absolutely local. If you see metal tubs with lids, that is a thumbs up. You're going to want to try that because that's local. Also, overly bright colors are a dead giveaway that this is artificially colored and flavored, because natural gelato doesn't look like that. Let's see. Next, a couple of tips, local tips. I highly advise you to bring a refillable water bottle. You do not need to spend money buying water bottle after water bottle. We have what are in this photo you see, they're called nasoni. It means big noses because of the spigot. It's just a local slang term. For these water fountains, they run continuously. So you see the water coming out. It comes from deep underground springs. It comes out really cold and you can fill your bottle. I'm going to share with you an actual app that I know of that will pinpoint for you all the locations of the thousands of nasoni that we have in Rome. So you can know where your next water fill-up station is going to be. And a super local tip is if you stick your thumb and you plug the water, there's a hole on the top and it's going to start shooting a little tiny jet of water out the top, like a drinking fountain. So if you don't have a bottle, you can actually drink straight from the fountain that way. Just be careful that you don't spray any passersby as you're getting the water out there, because it sprays, that jet goes pretty far when you do that. Next, I would recommend, if you want a really panoramic photo, go to Villa Borghese. I'm going to give you all the details on the map in my list afterwards. A picnic lunch is a lot of fun. It's a huge open green park here in Rome. You can take pictures at the Pincio Terrace. You're going to get a great view of Piazza del Popolo all the way out to St. Peter's Dome. And you can also rent what's called a risciò, which are those bikes that you see in the photo where you can pedal with your family or with your traveling companions. And if you have little ones, they even fit in those baskets in the front. It's a lot of fun. You can rent them by the hour. And lastly, have an aperitivo. It's a fun little pre-dinner tradition. You may be aware of the iconic Aperol Spritz, which you see in this photo. That's a typical aperitivo drink. You can have an alcoholic drink, a non-alcoholic drink, and it usually comes with snacks to eat. Some are just like peanuts and potato chips, but the one I'm going to tell you about in my resources list is this one you see in the photo. It's very abundant and it's 10 euros. You could even make a dinner out of it. So that aperitivo time is generally around 6:30. So it's a pre-dinner. It's a pre-dinner tradition, snacks before dinner. Okay, I'm going to have Lorian tell you about a really special place that we offer to our members.
Yes, so kind of last but not least, our newest member benefit is this access to the Borgia Gallery, which is one of the only places in the city where you can access the original ancient Roman street level. And when you visit the gallery, you'll hear about the history of the Borgia family, and you'll get a really unique look into the Roman Renaissance. And your visit will be paired with a wine tasting and an aperitivo, which Shelley just mentioned is a great way to experience the local food culture. and this is all led by our expert sommelier. This is only accessible to our members, and it's really truly a one-of-a-kind experience. So I really recommend you take advantage of it while you're visiting Rome.
Okay, so this concludes our webinar presentation portion. Like I said, I have all your resources together at one place. I'm going to include this in a follow-up email to you with the recording of the webinar, but just so that you know, I've put all this on our community. So italiapass.com, you're going to click community, and then you're going to look for the Ready for Rome orientation under Italy travel planning. And you will also have a link directly to this in the email that I'm going to send you after we finish here. So at this point, I'm going to switch over to the question and answer portion. It's easy to ask a question. If you want to ask us a question, just go to the icon on the bottom of your screen at Zoom where it says Q&A. You're going to open the Q&A box, and then you can ask a question there. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Let's see here. I can stop share so you can see us. Hang on just one second. My computer is really not cooperating with me today, and I cannot figure out why that is. Oh, and we're back. Okay, good. Perfect. So we have our first question. Kathleen asks, can we get access to previous programs that missed? If so, how do we do that? Kathleen, are you talking about previous webinars? I'm not sure what you mean by previous programs that missed. The webinar presentation that we give is the same slide presentation every 2 weeks. The only thing that really changes are the live questions. So I'm going to pass on that unless I hear different from you. Next one, are there Ubers in Rome? Yes, there are. You just download the Uber app. Easy as that. Any other questions? Feel free to ask. We'll wait just a couple of moments here to see if anybody else has any questions for us. Okay, well, if there are no more questions for today, then I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Oh, wait, one more, Kathleen. I did not realize it was the same program each time. Yeah, it is the same program each time. However, if you have additional questions about Rome, I manage the ItaliaPass community. So just hop over there anytime, type your question in. You have to sign up first in order to ask a question. Type your question in and I will get on it. If I don't know the answer, I'll research it for you. So anything else you think of, we have that resource for you. Any good resources for evening activities? Scott asks. I think you need to be a little bit more specific. I will give a think on that though, and gather some for you and post those in the community. And if you have anything more specific that you're thinking of in terms of evening activities, let me know.
I know that the Trastevere neighborhood specifically is really good for restaurants and more evening-based activities, but you can maybe start there and then ask us in the community as well. Yeah, like you said, Shelby.
No, that's a really good tip too, just for people watching and strolling around. There's a lot of nightlife there. So that's a nice neighborhood. I will write that in the name of that neighborhood down in our resources list. If you didn't catch it, it's Trastevere. The last place you talked about, can you elaborate? I'm imagining that you mean the Borgia Gallery. Can we elaborate? So it's downtown. It's in the heart of the historic center. It's a space that is on, if you go downstairs, it's on the original Roman street level. So we were able to rent this space for our members. So we created this experience mainly so that our members could have an exclusive experience that you wouldn't get access to otherwise. You wouldn't expect to find it. It's just a door on the street. You would not know what's behind that door. But it's a beautiful event space where you will have an immersive experience of storytelling about ancient Rome, Renaissance Rome, and you will get to taste 3 different wines from our sommelier. You know what you can also do if you want to know more about it? We have on Google, there's reviews, Borgia Gallery reviews. I'll link to that in our resources. You can read what other members have said about it to get a better idea. All right, what's the next one? Lyft. I've never used Lyft. I actually don't know if Lyft is in Rome. I'll look it up and get back to you on that in the community.
Not sure either.
Hmm. Will this presentation be emailed to us? Yes. Concerts, etc. Thank you so much for this. Yeah, you're very welcome. Super informative. Concerts question mark. You know what? Summertime is an amazing time for outdoor concerts in Rome. Amazing time. I will put those on the list of resources as well. Along the Tiber River, there's nightlife activities, there's little food stands. There are several, like Villa Celimontana has like a jazz festival. So it's a great time for outdoor concerts. How do I reach you via email? I'm already a member. Do you want to get that one, Lorianne?
Yes. So in your welcome email as a Primo member, you have a link to fill out a welcome form or survey form, and it goes directly to us, the dedicated Italy experience specialist, and then we'll get back to you with anything that you need for your trip. So any planning that you need.
Okay, and the second part to that question, are there any areas that are high crime? Generally, no. The more peripheric, I don't know if that's even a word in English anymore. We say the periphery, the outskirts of the city. I mean, if you were going to have to pinpoint a neighborhood that might have more crime, it certainly is not going to be a neighborhood you're going to go to as a visitor, tourist to Rome. So no, Rome doesn't really have a problem with violent crime necessarily, which kind of ties into the very next question. Is it safe to walk at night? I think in the historic center, you shouldn't have any trouble. I mean, certainly if you have a traveling companion to walk around with, that's always just good advice in general. Also general good advice and things locals told me when I first moved here. But like you would in any big city, you're going to want to avoid dark parks or dark areas, stay in well-lit areas. It's generally Rome, the advice I would give you about crime and safety in Rome is the same advice I would give you for any large city. So any large European or US city. The next one, do we need a reservation? For the Borgia Gallery, I'm assuming, yes, you do. And when you buy your Primo membership, you will get information about how to book that. There's a link and you just book. It's on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. We did that in order to try to accommodate as many members as we could. Do most stores and restaurants speak English? Enough. I think enough for you to be able to communicate basic tourist questions. Should we carry our passports? Do you want to take this one, Lorianne? Since
Sure.
I'm talking too much.
No, not at all. Should you carry your passport? I think, Shelly, last time you had said that it's always good to have some form of identification, especially if you're going to go to the Colosseum and you have tickets and you're going to these landmarks. Some of them will require you to have identification. I usually say that it's good to have your passport on you. Just make sure you are mindful of your belongings, as we said throughout this presentation, so that nothing, happens to your bag or anything. But yeah, it's always good to have identification on you.
Okay, and then Kathleen has a customer service type question that we will send that to you, Kathleen. You will get that link.
Yes, we'll reach out.
Okay. I think that about wraps it up. Looks like we've exhausted all your questions, but like I said, if you have more, please do visit at the community. I'm happy to answer any other questions that come up for you. And thanks again for joining us today. It was a pleasure sharing this information about Rome, and I want to wish you all buon viaggio. Have a wonderful time on your Italy vacation.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye.